Thank you so much for joining me today. So, today we are going to work out. If you've been doing some sedentary work or school, we're going to turn the big toes into touch and turn heels out very wide here, about a 90-degree angle. Interlace hands behind the back of the head, elbows just relaxing out, let the shoulders relax back and down. Standing here for a few moments, this is stretching deep into those inner hips here, areas that don't get worked when we're sitting all day. Excellent. One more breath. And then go ahead and release the arms down. We're actually going to go ahead and turn the feet so that the inside of the feet are parallel. Or sorry, the outside of the feet are parallel. So you'll be a little bit pigeon-toed here, and then interlace the fingers and stretch those up above the head with palms facing up. If it feels good, you can let the head drop back. Just nice long spine stretch here. Exhale, release the arms down. Maybe roll the shoulders, the wrists out, and then we'll come up to the top of the mat here. Let yourself get stabilized here. So feet hip distance apart, hands palm to palm at heart center. And then on your next inhale, we'll sweep the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, swan dive into that forward fold. This being the first forward fold, take bend in the knees if that feels best. Inhale, half high. Exhale, folding it forward deeply. Inhale, lengthen, maybe start to straighten through the legs if the back feels good, or keep bent knees. Exhale to fold it forward deeply. Excellent. On the next inhale, we're going to straighten the spine, come parallel to the floor, and now arms are going to reach back alongside the hips, palms rolling up to the ceiling, and start to squeeze those thumbs towards each other. You can keep bending the knees if that feels best, or straight legs if that feels good. Engaging the core, really feel the upper back engage, maybe a stretch to the chest. Exhale, go ahead and fold it forward, release that tension from the back here. Take a few moments, maybe sway it around a little bit, stretch out those shoulders. Maybe you want to shrug them a few times. We'll go ahead and shake the head as if we're saying yes and as if we're saying no. And then we'll start to make circles to one direction with the head and then in the opposite direction, releasing tension in the neck. You can even interlace the arms into the elbows if that feels good, letting the full weight of the torso stretch out the spine gently. Keeping bend in the knees again if that feels best, or if your legs feel great, your hamstrings are open and your back feels great, you can straighten legs. Excellent. On the next inhale, we're going to go ahead and come up half high one more time. And then exhale, place the hands down to the mat. Inhale, sweeping it all the way up, reach for the ceiling. Exhale, hands to heart center. And then this time we'll release the hands down alongside the hips and then go ahead and reach them back to interlace fingertips together. Good. You can press the palms in together if that's available to you, or it can just be fingertips interlaced. Reaching those shoulder blades again back towards each other, squeezing tight here. If it feels good, lift the hands away from the hips. If it feels even better to you, release the ribs down onto the tops of the legs, so bent legs. Or if it feels good, again, to hamstrings and back, you can start to straighten the legs. And now fingers are reaching either towards the ceiling or towards that back wall. Or I should say front wall. Good. Deep breaths here. Big stretch through the chest here. And then we'll go ahead and reverse. Go ahead and slowly sweep those hands all the way up to the ceiling. Stretch long. Exhale, hands to heart center. Okay, and from here, we're going to go ahead and step the left foot back, taking a high lunge on on the right side, so that left leg is back. And then from here, if it feels good, go ahead and release that left knee down to the mat, making sure the right knee doesn't come past the toes. Hands will go ahead and come palm to palm at heart center. And then from here, we're going to take field goal post arms and we're going to bring those in front of the chest and wrap the right elbow inside the left elbow. And if it feels good, weave the arms together. You can hold it there, or if you want, you can start to flow up and down with that left knee, adding a little more strength into the legs and also starting to work into those hips, warm them up a little bit for some hip stretches. Excellent. Big stretch to the upper back. Go ahead and unlace those elbows. Left knee is now to the floor. We'll release the hands down to the mat. We're going to stretch forward into that right hip. If it feels good, you can bring hands up on top of the knee, stretching a little bit deeper, so hips sinking a little bit deeper. Or if you'd like, you can even inhale, reach the arms up towards the ceiling, maybe interlace the fingers except for pointers and thumbs. I like to do a little flow with my breath here. So inhales, I relax off of the hips, come up a little higher. Exhales, I start to deepen and lower the hips a little bit more. Good. We'll go ahead and release those hands back down to the mat. Tuck toes. We'll go ahead and lift back up into that high lunge. And then from here, we're going to take a spinal twist. So you may want a block for support to come up a little bit higher, a little less of a twist there, a little more accessible, or hand to the inside of the foot and right arm is twisting up and reaching for the sky. Deep breath here. Really reach and twist. And then we'll slowly unwind that twist. Bring that right hand back down to the mat. Go ahead and release the left knee for just a moment. And then we'll lift up and back into downward facing dog. Take a moment to stretch those hips, maybe stretch through the feet, wiggle it side to side, whatever feels good to you, maybe pedaling those heels down towards the floor. All right, from here we'll release the knees down to the mat, bring the hands right underneath the shoulders, and we'll take some cat-cow. So inhales, let the navel sink towards the floor. Exhales, we're gonna round that spine as though you're pressing the spine into the ceiling. Inhales, you're gonna create more space for your breath. We tend to breathe a little more shallow when we're sitting all day. And exhales, rounding it out. Stretch those muscles at the back. If you sit and type on a computer, have your arms out in front of you, your back's going to get tight. So this is going to work out both creating more space for the breath and releasing tension through the spine. Excellent. We'll do that flow just one more time. Deep, deep breath. And then as you exhale, rounding it out. And then we're going to go ahead and release the hips back to the heels, take the pressure off the wrists, take a few moments to roll them, shake them out a few times. If you work with your hands a lot, typing on a computer, whatever it may be, they tend to get a little tight. Go ahead and release that down to child's pose, resting the forehead to the mat. And then we'll go ahead and come up to downward facing dog. Taking just a few breaths here. And then we're going to go ahead and step or walk those feet up to the top of the mat to that forward fold. Inhale, sweep it all the way up to standing, reach it to the ceiling. Exhale, hands back down, palm to palm at heart center. This time we'll go ahead and step the right foot back down the mat, finding that high lunge on the left side, releasing the knee, tapping that down, making sure left knee doesn't come past the toes. And then we will take those, they're called eagle arms. It's field goal post arms coming in front of the chest, this time wrapping left elbow on top of right, and maybe if it's within your grasp, wrapping those arms and hands all the way up. If you want to start that flow, inhale up, exhale, slowly release, gently tapping that knee against the floor. If the knee is not gently tapping, I would recommend just staying where you're at or not quite coming all the way to the floor. And then we'll go ahead and release those hands down to the mat. We're going to just stretch into those hips a little bit more. So if it feels okay for you, bringing hands either up to the top of the thigh or arms reaching up, interlacing fingers except for thumb and pointer. Inhales, maybe relax off the hips, come up a little bit higher. Exhales, come down a little bit deeper. Wherever you're at in your practice today. Okay, and we'll go ahead and release those hands back down to the floor. Lift that knee back up, and then we're going to come into that spinal twist. So right hand to the inside of the foot, whether it's to the floor or onto our block, twisting left arm up towards the ceiling. So we're twisting towards that bent leg. Deep breaths here. Excellent. And then we'll go ahead and release that hand back down to the mat. Go ahead and tap that knee back down to the floor for just a moment. We're going to come back up to downward facing dog. Perfect. So you can stay in downward dog, or we're going to create a flowing downward dog. We're going to inhale right leg up and back towards the ceiling. Exhale to release it down. And then opposite, inhale left leg up and back towards the ceiling. Exhale to release it down. Inhale right back up. Exhale, release it down. Just a few more flows here. Feeling how the abdominals engage a little bit more. Try not to let that throw your hips out of balance as the legs rising and falling. We'll stop in downward dog here, and we'll go ahead and flow forward to the knees. Go ahead and release that back and down into child's pose. If your wrists need a little extra stretch, go ahead and shake them out or roll them around a few times. If your forehead does not feel comfortable on the floor, you can take stacked fists, one on top of another, and place those right underneath the forehead, a little less pressure onto the neck. We'll go ahead and come back up to all fours. We're going to stretch out the wrists. So most of the pressure onto the right wrist right now. We're going to spin the left fingertips back towards the left knee. So they're spinning out and back. A little, as much pressure as feels good there, and then we'll turn it so they're pointing out towards that left side. Not a lot of pressure on the wrist, just as much again as feels good, and then flip the hand, just very gentle pressure, and roll that out. And then we're going to reverse. We'll place most of the pressure on the left wrist now, and then rotate those right fingertips back towards the right knee. As much pressure as feels good there. And then turning it out to the side. If you do a lot of typing or writing, work with your hands. I like to crochet. You tend to get very tight through the wrists, especially if you're prone to carpal tunnel. Roll that out a little bit here. Excellent. And then from here, we're taking spinal balance. So right arm extends forward and left leg extends back. So opposite arm and leg. And then left arm extends, and then right leg. And as you are inhaling and lifting that opposite arm and leg, engage the muscles of the core so that you're not doing a lot of wobbling here. If it feels like it's just not within your balance right now, you can always just do arm or leg, whichever feels better to you. You don't have to do arm and leg. If you're really struggling with balance, you might notice you're doing the same arm and leg. Excellent. Releasing that back down. Go ahead and release the hips onto the heels, and we're going to come to seated onto our mats. Take another moment to roll out those wrists a little bit. Release that pressure. From here, we're going to stretch out the hips in the back a little bit. So we're going to take a cross-legged position, whichever foot in front feels best to you. And then we're just going to fold gently forward, making sure the knees feel good here, the hips feel good. If that doesn't feel good, you can just come right back up. A few deep, relaxing breaths here. And then we're going to slowly start to straighten back up. And then we are just going to reverse those legs. So whichever leg you automatically put in front, you're going to put that opposite in front. And then again, if it feels good, you can start to fold forward here, making sure hips and knees are feeling good. You should always feel good throughout your practice. If you do not, you want to come out of a pose, and you can always message me with any questions about a pose that you would like a little more attention on. We'll slowly start to straighten all the way back up. And then we're going to go ahead and cross the left knee underneath the right leg. So that knee comes out in front, pointing forward, and then the left foot comes alongside the hip. If that is too much for the hips or the knee, you can go ahead and straighten that leg. Otherwise, it's coming across. We're going to come into a spinal twist. So right foot pressing against the floor, right knee in front of the chest, whether that left leg is straight or bent, and then spinning around towards that right side. Right arm comes back behind, fingertips to the floor for support. Open that right shoulder back. Perhaps gaze back over that right shoulder if that feels good to the spine. Hugging that right leg in with the left arm. And then we're going to slowly unwind that spinal twist. And from here, we're going to take a very intense hip stretch. So I am going to utilize a block. My outer hips are very tight. So I'm going to sit on one block, which is progress for me. You can take as many blocks, blankets, thick pillows as you need. Perhaps you have a bolster. And then now we're trying to stack the right knee over the top of the left knee. Making sure absolutely that knees feel good. If your hips are extremely tight, your knees are the thing that are going to get injured if you're not listening to your body. So if this doesn't feel good, just come down to a seated position instead. Excellent. And thank goodness we're coming out of this pose. Always feels like sweet relief to me. And then we're going to go ahead and take that spinal twist on the opposite side. So right leg is down to the mat, either bent knee so that knee is pointing forward, foot alongside the hips, not underneath the hip. If that's not within your reach, or if the foot wants to come underneath the hip, straighten that right leg. Left leg is bent with knee coming up towards the chest and then twisting around to that left side. Left fingertips back behind the body, so helping keep that spine straight, chest lifted, not rounding through the back, hunching shoulders. Right arm is squeezing that right leg in towards the chest. Perhaps gaze back over that shoulder. And then slowly start to unwind that twist. And then coming into that intense outer hip stretch into the start of a cow face pose. So attempting to stack those knees one on top of the other. Deep breath here for me, trying to get into those hips. Again, if there's any sort of pain or discomfort, absolutely do not attempt the pose, just come back out. Intensity is okay, pain is not. And if you injure yourself, it will only take longer to work into a pose in the long term. So listening to your body, being very gentle and understanding with where you're at today. All right, from here, bringing those legs out wide into a split. And then my inner thighs are also tight. So we are going to fold it forward, but you come forward as far as it feels good to you. So for many students, that is bringing those forearms down to the floor, even chest almost all the way down to the floor. So finding where you're at today. I unfortunately do a lot of sitting for my job, so I am tight in those typical areas, hips, thighs. Excellent. And then slowly start to straighten yourself back up. And then we're going to turn this into a side stretch. So left arm reaches up towards the ceiling and then extend over that right leg. You can use the right arm as a little bit of support here. Nice side stretch here. Create a little more space to breathe. Definitely not a stretch that you're doing when you're sitting at your desk all day or on a couch, in a chair, whatever it may be. On your next inhale, you're going to slowly straighten all the way back up. And then we're going to reverse that. We're going to inhale, reach the right arm up towards the ceiling and over towards that left side. Stretching a little more through the hamstring as well here, but really getting that good side body stretch. So create a little more space between the ribs as you breathe. Perhaps finding the lowest rib extending a little bit further away from the top of that right hip. Trying not to collapse the opposite ribs, the left ribs, one on top of the other here. And then on your next inhale, you'll slowly straighten all the way back up. And then we'll go ahead and bring those legs back together. From here, we're going to come into cradle the baby. So we're going to leave the right leg extending out. We're going to bend the left knee and take hold of, perhaps it's around the outside of the foot, or it can be the ankle, wherever feels good to you, flexing into that left foot so you're aligning the shin bones, protecting the knee, and if it feels good, start to hug that in towards the chest, really paying attention to how the knee feels. Any discomfort in the knee, I want you to back off. The knee speaks loud and clear, but it is very easy to injure. So the moment you hear your knee talking to you, back off. We'll release that and switch to the opposite side here. So left leg extends out, right knee is bent, bringing that foot up in front of the chest. And if it feels good, squeezing that in, not rounding the back, nice long spine, stretching that chest towards the foot. Very good if you're seated all day, most of your day. We'll go ahead and release that down to the mat. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and bring hands or stacked fists underneath the shoulders, fingers in line with the toes, feet hip distance apart, pressing up into our reverse tabletop here. Good. Lifting the hips, the chest, head coming back in line with the spine, so not letting it hang and dangle towards the floor. A lot of intensity in those wrists. That's why you can do stacked fists if you need to, or just come back out if it's too much for the wrists. Go ahead and release the hips back down. Take that pressure off the wrists. Take a few moments to stretch them, roll them around a little bit. Excellent. From here, we're going to go ahead and come all the way down to the mat onto our backs. Go ahead and keep those knees bent here. Maybe rock it side to side a little bit. Hug those knees to the chest. You can rock that side to side a few times. And then from here, we're going to take happy baby pose, or also known as dead bug. So knees separate out wide alongside the ribs. Turn soles of the feet up towards the ceiling with bent knees. You can take a hold of the ankles or the bottoms of the feet and rock that side to side if that feels good. Releasing pressure in the hips, tension in the hips here. And then we'll come back to neutral. We'll go ahead and bring those knees back in towards each other. Release those feet down to the floor. And then from here, we're going to go ahead. I've got to scooch myself up here. Extend the arms straight out from the shoulders if that feels good. Tuck knees in towards your chest, and we're going to wrap the right knee over the left knee. And then we're going to go ahead and rock those knees over to that left side. So opposite side of the knee that's on top. As long as that feels good to your spine here, you can always unwrap the knees and just let stacked knees fall to the side as well. If it feels good to the neck, you can go ahead and let your gaze drop over towards that right shoulder and maybe even close the eyes. Spinal twist should feel very good. So make any adjustments you need to if it doesn't feel great to you. Deep, relaxed breaths here, opening up through the muscles of the chest a bit more. Stretching down the spine through those hips a bit. And then we'll slowly start to unwind our twist. And then we're going to reverse those legs. So now left knee on top of the right knee, knees up towards the chest, and then rocking over to that right side. If you're working in a limited space like I am, just moving, adjusting however you need to. If it feels good to the neck, let the chin roll over towards that left shoulder. Deep, relaxed breaths here. Let the shoulders relax back and down. You may feel a stretch of that left pectoral muscle here. Maybe you feel it down through the hips. And then very slowly, we'll start to unwind that twist, uncrossing the knees. Go ahead and hug those knees back into the chest when you're ready. Rock that side to side a few times. And then from here, we're going to come into butterfly pose. So let the soles of the feet come down to the mat. Let them turn into touch and knees gently open wide here. Just let gravity do the work. So we're not squeezing the outside of the thighs to the floor. We're just letting the legs get very heavy. And if for any reason this feels uncomfortable, especially if you feel a pulling sensation in your lower back, if you're very tight in your lower back, just bring those knees back up towards each other early. If you are feeling good, let arms relax wherever they feel best. And then again, deep, relaxed breaths here. Letting go of tension. The ribs have a little more space here in butterfly pose. Feeling abdomen, ribs, chest rising and falling. And then we'll slowly start to bring those knees back towards each other. Hug those knees into the chest again. Release any tension in the low back. From here, we're going to take fish pose. So we're going to walk the hands with palms down underneath the hips. So shoulders are going to come in as well. Extend the legs out and press into those forearms so that your chest lifts. You can pause here if that feels good, or you can let the head start to tip back until you feel just the slightest amount of pressure onto the top of the head. We are not putting any weight onto the head. All of the weight, the work is coming into the arms, pressing and lifting that chest, big arch through the spine. Any pressure in the head other than just that tap onto the floor, come back out early. Excellent. And then we'll slowly start to reverse this. Lift the head. Go ahead and release the spine down. Rock those hands out from underneath the hips. Feel free to rotate those wrists one last time. And then from here, we'll hug those knees into the chest one last time, coming into final relaxation. So if you have an eye mask or an eye pillow, go ahead and place that over your eyes. If your low back needs a little extra care, bring feet wide with knees knocking and resting against each other to the inside. Otherwise, extend heels out to the corners of the mats. Release backs of hands down alongside the hips. And relaxing and breathing here. I relax my feet and ankles. My feet and ankles are completely relaxed. I relax my shins, calves, and knees. My shins, calves, and knees are completely relaxed. I relax my thighs and hips. My thighs and hips are completely relaxed. I relax my hands, wrists, and arms. My hands, wrists, and arms are relaxed. I relax down through my spine and through my abdomen and ribs. My spine, abdomen, and ribs are relaxed. I relax through my chest and shoulders. My chest and shoulders are completely relaxed. And I relax through my neck, face, and jaw. My neck, face, and jaw are completely relaxed. I allow my entire body to fully relax. My entire body is completely and totally relaxed. Taking a deep breath in. And then slowly start to wiggle the fingers, the toes, maybe wiggling hands and feet, maybe head side to side. Taking your time, find what movement stretches feel good, perhaps hugging those knees into the chest one last time, rocking it around. And when you're ready, you'll rock over to that right side. Use that right arm for support for the head. Pausing to take a deep, relaxed breath here. And then when you're ready from there, you can start to press yourself up to just a comfortable seated position. And we're going to stretch out the neck just a little bit more here, any lingering tension. So once you get to your comfortable seated position, go ahead and let the chin come down towards your chest. And then very slowly start to roll it all the way around the shoulders. So whichever direction you want to start. Moving ever so slowly. Feel how that tension isn't just in the neck. It runs down through the top of the chest, perhaps around the clavicle. Maybe you even feel it down through the shoulder blades. Or if your low back is having any tension issues, you'll feel it all the way through the low back. Whenever your chin comes back to your chest, just reverse those circles, rolling in the opposite direction a few times. Observing and releasing that tension. Just letting it go. One more time around. And then again, whenever your chin comes back to your chest, we'll go ahead and gently lift the head up in line with the spine. From here, we're going to do an eye release. So rubbing the palms together vigorously to release tension, and then placing those palms over the eyes gently. Deep breath, exhaling it out. Doing this again, we're rubbing the palms together vigorously, and then placing them over the eyes. And then just one more time, rubbing those hands, palm to palm, creating heat, placing them over the eyes. And then as you exhale, you can go ahead and release the palms back down. And then we'll go ahead and connect those hands palm to palm in front of the chest. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.